Hey everyone, it's Helen from SMB Deal Hunter. Today we're going to talk with Arman here about a deal he closed recently through the Pro program. It took about a year from when Arman started working with us to close. And as of 2 months ago, he's now the owner of an HVAC company in the Washington, D.C. area. So today we're going to touch on what Arman was doing before he bought this business and his background, some of the challenges of the search he faced, the deal he ultimately closed on, and also how the past 2 months have been post acquisition. So let's jump in. First off, Arman, thank you so much for joining me today. Excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for taking the time with me.
Let's talk about your background first. Tell us about what you were doing before and what kind of prompted you to get into business buying.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in tech. I worked for various companies from Accenture, American Airlines, just on the tech side of things. And even though I wasn't really a developer, my role was more so figuring out better ways for a company to provide value in from a tech perspective. So I was what they called an agile coach. So, working with dev teams and figuring out operationally how they can deliver value faster, and then working with leadership to figure out what does value even mean and how do we create a product that actually is meaningful with efficiency. So, we realize that it doesn't matter how efficient you are, you have to also be strategic. And so the coaching that I used to provide was kind of from the bottom, and then realizing that there was bottlenecks. And so we had to really go to leadership level to resolve those things. So, um, that's kind of what I've been doing in the past, but I've always wanted a way out. And my journey started because I recognized that my role would be eliminated at some point because the economy was kind of falling in some regards, especially and so my role is luxurious, if you will, right? Like if a company is doing poor or money is an issue, like you're going to get rid of the coaches, you're going to get rid of the things that you don't need, immediately. And so I recognize that, and I actually did get laid off. So I kind of foresaw all of that stuff. So I'm grateful to have figured out another path, if you will.
And did you get laid off while you're already searching, or?
This is interesting. This is insane. But if you remember, there was a government shutdown, right? Just recently. My loan closed the day before the shutdown. Granted, I would say that the bank and everyone was like rushing to get it closed because if it didn't, we knew it was going to be like a month or 2 month delay. But it closed like on a Monday, and I got laid off from my last job on a Tuesday. So
That's fine.
yeah, so absolutely wild.
I mean, that's pretty nuts. And how long were you looking for a business to buy on your own? At what point? Maybe talk about some of the progress you've made on your own and kind of what prompted you to come and join us.
Yeah, no, I started last August 2024. Actually, before that, I would say probably January is when like the research started, right? Like, so just thinking about it back then, it was more like, I don't have much time. Maybe I should just invest. And I realized that, maybe there's an opportunity for me to actually purchase one. And so I was just researching, and I came to the conclusion that, um, I wanted something that was home services related, like plumbing, HVAC. I'm sure you hear this a lot. Like those are the roofing, like those are the ones that I feel like are the safest for me. Now, granted, after joining SMB, I think it doesn't have to be just to those three. I think there's a few others that are safe and good options as well. But those are the ones I really want to stick with. And then the journey started with another company like yours that was trying to poach me and do stuff, and it didn't work out with them. It didn't really like what they were offering, and so then I reached out to SMB because I was actually on your newsletter because I was just trying to learn. I wasn't trying to sign up for anything. I was one of those that was like, I'll probably just read these for like 5 years before I do anything. And I just keep getting your newsletters, and it was like, the things that you put out there, some bit of information and companies that you can get. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll read the next one tomorrow and, and keep on. But it was enough for me to just kind of be on it a little bit. And then in August, I reached out just to see like pricing and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is pretty reasonable. And I already knew that I couldn't do this on my own. Like, yeah, maybe if you did enough YouTube videos and Google and all that stuff, maybe you can get your information. But Um, I think, I couldn't have done this without SMB. And I'll say this because the confidence of knowing that there's advisors on your corner at every moment, like that respond within seconds or minutes or even hours, whatever it may be, right? Like they're there, like with the most random questions that Google's not going to answer for you, right? Like you just needed someone that is experienced, has been in it, and has contacts, right? And the other thing that was pressing and nerve wracking for me was that I knew I wanted to go big, like I wanted something huge. So I knew that I would probably need investors. Like there is no way anybody has access to investors on their own, right? Unless you come from like some wealthy family and are well connected. And so you all offered a way to get in front of investors, and that really um, that really resonated with me. So even though I didn't use them, I knew that I could. So that was a huge thing for me. So it just knowing that I had these services really helped me to kind of push forward.
You mentioned, you're already part of another program. What was kind of holding you back maybe before joining us? And,
Oh, with them, honestly, I lost trust in what they were offering. They um, offered a service that was like all done for you. Like we will, um, I'll go into like they were saying they were going to charge $150,000. Okay, so they were going to find the business, do the closing, get the banking, do all of it for you, which sounded great because I didn't want to do any of it. Right, I just wanted someone. They were like, you won't have to lift a finger, right? So I signed the contract and everything. I was ready to go, and then their leadership, someone in leadership, backed out and said, we're not offering that service anymore. Here's what we're going to offer instead. And like I just felt, I was like, there's no more trust here, right? Like you brought me in, you sold me something, and then now you're trying to sell me something else, which is 100 times worse of a deal, right? So they were like, okay, instead of that deal, we're going to do something that is where you invest your 150K, but you won't own all the business. We'll own 50%. It was something ridiculous, right? So, I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I got to find something else. So, um, then I found you all, and it was like, yeah, you'll have to do a lot of the upfront work, which, by the way, I'm super grateful for because I learned so much doing it on my own versus having someone doing it for me. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So whoever's out there, like, just stick with it, do it yourself. Trust me. Like, you learn so much more. You learn how to talk to people, learn how to talk to brokers. Like, just there's so much to learn that I would not put off.
no, I totally agree. I think, especially when you have to be the one operating the business after you close it.
Right. So you might as well learn the negotiation. You might as well learn these other skill sets that are extremely important for you to run a business. So yeah, I think the other model just is not effective.
I'm curious. Tell us about, after you joined, some of the deals you started looking at. How soon into the program did you, come across this one? And, how long did it take before you found this deal? And what were some of the other deals you kind of checked out?
Yeah, so I think I signed up roughly around September, late September, maybe October. I can't really remember. And I found something pretty quickly right after. And I think I got emotionally tied to it, which do not do. But on paper, it was a great deal, right? Like it was 3x the EBITDA. Like it felt great. Um, but the seller just kept dragging me along and trying to negotiate before LOI. And the way he was negotiating made it seem like he was gonna give it to me, which he's trying to line up some numbers beforehand. But this was going on for months, right? And like it drove me mad. Like I didn't feel like that's how it should have gone, even though I'm inexperienced. I think he smelled that I was inexperienced as well from business buying, and he treated me like a youngin because he was like retiring, and I'm under 40, and so he's like, what do you know, right? But he was, every time I talked to him, I met with him, I was trying to build rapport and do all those great things, and he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna look at all the LOIs, and I'll get back to you, and he would take like 5 weeks to get back to me,
Wow.
and then he would say, well, let's talk. And I would send him an LOI, and he would say, well, change this and this. Well, what do you mean by that? And it's like, okay. So finally, I sent him a final number, and I was like, okay, look, here's all the things. This should meet everything that you've asked for. I think the last thing he said was like he wanted some amount for the lease, and I was like, that's an absurd number, but I'll still meet it. This is what I mean by getting emotional. Like I said, I'll still do it, but I can't meet your like 3% annual increase, right? Minus that, everything looks good. And then he ghosted me, and then 2 days later, he said he went with someone else. So I got extremely frustrated because this has been dragging for months, right? And I couldn't. I also had been looking for other deals. There was just nothing on the table at that time from like October to January. I couldn't see anything else, and so it fell through. I was upset, uh, but then this one, then there was like a few others that I was aggressively looking for. I realized that this is a full time job. Like looking for a business it takes a lot of time, but finally found this one.
And you had 3 or 4 jobs at the same
Yeah,
time.
I did. The thing is like the thing with my like I said, my situation was unique because my job is like I said, coaching leadership, right? So if I need to coach a VP who's busy, who has like meetings, 9 to 5, like they're gonna fit you in like 2 weeks later. So I was like, well, there's a whole bunch of VPs and directors that don't have time for me anyway. So it worked out. Probably why I got laid off, right? So, anyways, um, uh, so where was I? So yeah, full-time job looking for a gig, and then finally found this one in February. Uh, and the thing is, like, I kept sending LOIs and they kept getting rejected, or they would go with someone else, and it was really frustrating. Finally, this one, it felt a bit more expensive than I wanted. I think it was like almost 5x. And I came to the realization, like, look, all the readings I do, it's always like stick in the 3, max 4. And in this area, I just was not seeing that. Right. So I felt like maybe I'll take the risk and do like a 5x. It was like 4.5, 5x, depending on how you look at the numbers. Went ahead with it, gave them an offer, and they accepted. And, I wouldn't say it was great from then on because I felt like I dealt with every possible issue you could with a bank, right? Like it was a nightmare because I said like that was in March, so my expectation was to close in June, July, latest July. We closed October, right? So, and it wasn't like anyone was sitting around. Like they were aggressively trying to sell, and they were responsive, and I was responsive to the bank and their needs. When I say responsive, I was trying to give them stuff within minutes of their ask, right? And so were the sellers. But the bank just, I don't know what was going on to this day. I have no idea, but it went all the way till October. So that was probably the most frustrating piece, right? Like your whole life is like relying on this business to take off, and it's taking like months and months to close. So, but finally got it done.
No, it happens. I think I've never seen a deal close, or maybe very few times I've seen a deal close exactly on time. But tell us, can you share some specific examples of challenging moments where you found being part of the program helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just the questions, right? Like that you have that anyone's going to have. And I'll have to go back and figure out like all the questions I had to ask, but like just figuring out like, is this a good deal? Right. Like I think the biggest, like I think what you guys do is you provide different services and products, right? And one of them is education. One of them is like the advisors, which I found to be the best. One is like offering community. So there's various things that you all offer. For me, it was, like I said, just having 3 or 4 people just always there responsive. Um, so like having them to even analyze deals was huge. Like to be able to give a deal and say, hey, am I heading in the right direction? And you kind of know the answer, but you need to make sure that there's an expert that's saying like, yeah, push forward. I think that is the number one thing for me, right? Just getting that confidence from someone else that is an expert that, hey, this is a good deal. Because like this one, I was like, it seems a little bit expensive. Should I do it? Should I not? And then analyzing it, giving you confidence to saying that this is good. That to me was a big win. And then after that, being able to have access to banks that you could trust, or lawyers that you can trust, or like these services that you can provide after the fact, it just makes the process much quicker. And then understanding certain things that you wouldn't have done otherwise, right? Like due diligence, or like someone to come in and look at the books that give you more confidence. Like these are things that I think are extremely valuable that I would not skip. And then the questions that just Google's not going to answer for you. Like I can't think of the ones that I've asked, but like, or how much of a percentage of the business should I give to my VP? Like what's going to keep him in the, keep him motivated, or like whatever that may be, right? Like those are just some of the simple ones, but there's just some other ones that are like just very niche. It may be niche to your situation that they're able to respond to. I think that is critical. You won't know what those questions are until you're really in the thick of it. Think of it. So
No, that's great color and insight. Anything else we haven't touched on, I guess, in terms of, things that you may have found, helpful that you got out of, working with us?
no, I think it's also knowing, like, I was extremely impatient, right? Like it, just a deal that you're really counting on to be done in, June, July. And it's just like, it's one of those situations where it's like, there's nothing more that you want than this thing to close, right? And just having, like I said, like the advisors and everyone being like, hey, just stay patient. This is normal. Just, I cannot stress enough like how valuable it is to have people in your corner, and like experts, right? Like just even from the banking side, I think you even had like a banking expert that was, that I could go to and ask, like, is this reasonable? Is this not? Or what they're asking reasonable? Like, I'm working with this bank. Is that a reasonable ask? And they're like, yeah, this is, or this isn't, or maybe look at this or look at that. I think that was helpful as well. And then, not to mention the rules changed, SBA rules changed. So just having experts on hand to guide you through those rule changes and what you could do to navigate around it, I think that was helpful as well.
No, that's super helpful. Let's kind of dive into the business you actually acquired next. Tell us about the business you acquired first,
Yeah.
and share some maybe high level deal terms you were able to negotiate.
Yeah. So it was HVAC and weatherization company. It's a bit unique because its focus is helping low income housing using federal, state, and utility funding. So that's one thing I love about it, is that it's a great way to give back to the community, and its value proposition is that its main goal is to help the people in need, right? There's a lot of people, and I've learned this like as I've acquired it, is like there's a lot of people that do not have heating. Like, can you imagine being in the Northeast and not having heating? And there's a lot of people that, a couple $100 savings on their utility bill is basically food on the table, right? So our job is to kind of use the funding programs to help like multifamily housing and even single family housing, and using that funding to provide weatherization, providing new heat pumps and things so that they could reduce their heating bill and actually even receive heat or any bit of comfort for their daily lives. So it's unique because all the HVAC companies that I was trying to look at were your typical, right? Like, expand your marketing and get customers, and you get calls and you go out and you service and do maintenance and things like that. This is not really that. This is I would say the risk of it is that you're working with a couple of what would I say, like nonprofit organizations that get the funding. So you have to have good relationships with them, which is why I did a stock purchase, because I wanted to maintain those contracts, and maintain that relationship, and keep that up. But I would say is the risk, because you kind of have 2 or 3 customers, but also not, because you are servicing multiple different types of multifamily units out there. But I liked this business particular because we're the only ones in the entire state that can do what we do, which is provide HVAC and weatherization to multifamily. There's a lot of people out there that can do single family homes and like your typical go in and work on a single house, but not many that can work on 100, 200 unit apartment complexes and do it at scale. So that's what I loved about this business.
It's a great moat to have bought your way into. Can you share sort of maybe deal size, some of the terms you're able to negotiate, and maybe how you're able to finance it? Because, you know, obviously you leverage your 401k, which we haven't spoken about yet, but tell us a little bit about all of that.
Yeah. So I think the original offer was like 5.8 with the EBITDA around 1.1, 1.2 in that range. And my offer was 5.2, and they accepted that. And even then, felt like it was a tad bit overpriced. But and the other risk was that it was a kind of a young business. It was like they've been in business since 2019. So ideally, I would have wanted something that was 20, 30 years old or something. But at the same time, this had a lot of potential. Like they haven't even scratched the surface. So felt like with that potential, this was going to be worth it. So at 5.2, I ended up only putting about 6% down. I would say the bank in the end needed about 6%. So I think in the end they needed about $320,000 cash, which I funded via 401k money and some cash I had, right? Like just a combination of the two. And I still had some 401k money, but I didn't want to use all of it. Just because if I wanted to turn it into an S corp, I can buy it out at a cheaper rate. That's a whole different story. But yeah, you do need more than you think. It's a big learning. Like come up with that was a big stress. Like how am I going to come up with this cash? Because if you need to provide 320k equity, it means you need to have the bank said about I think 76 or $790,000 in total because they want to see reserve equity or reserve cash. So that was a bit tough to get into. But I was like looking for cash in like every corner of my house. Like I'll have this fund that I forgot about. Asking my wife, like, what do you got? Like it was just like trying to pull things out of anywhere. We made it work. But there was like a lot of that's where I think I learned some things that you will not find online of like how you show that money and what the bank really needs to see versus what you need to actually have on hand. I think that really depends on bank to bank. So
Yep.
some opportunities there as well. But yeah, I only need to put 5% down. Seller financing was we had to change it. So I can't remember how it happened because SBA rules changed. But before it was like, so I think they provided $660,000, about 10% or more than 10. Yeah, about 10% seller financing, and half of, or about 400 of that, 400K of that was 10 years deferred, right? And then 200K of that was 2 years deferred. I'm saying, yeah, it was on standby for 2 years. Originally, all of it was going to be 2 years standby, but we needed to have a certain percentage after SBA rules be 10 years on standby. So that was a scary moment because to go back to the owners and say, hey, look, I need this huge amount to be 10 years on standby. I think I was really nervous that wasn't going to work. Like I did not want to go back to the owners after something we already agreed on.
Yeah.
But the way I delivered that message was I kind of wrote it up in a way that was like, this is how I can mitigate some risks. This is what I can give you in return. And I was just trying to show it in a way where it's like, hey, this is not a big deal. And just really kind of sell it. And I drove all the way there. I did my first site visit and then kind of laid it all out there and said, like, look, I would love to have done it the old way, but SBA rules changed. If we want to move forward, this is how we're gonna have to do it. And they agreed, right? Like, I think I sent it to the broker beforehand so they can kind of like preface it for them. So yeah, that was one of the scary moments now that I recall. Like, is this going to work or not? Are they going to back out? Yeah, because they have every right to. Because going from 2 years deferred to 10 years is like a big deal.
Yeah, that is. No, and it's pretty crazy times as you were trying to close this with these major SBA rule changes happening. So
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about, kind of learned a little bit about what made this deal unique, obviously, but what else, did you like about the deal and continue to like now that you're operating the business?
Well, what I liked about it is the main thing was that uh, this is their best year that they've had. So like as I was trying to close, they were targeting an EBITDA around like 1.7, 1.6 in that range. So I was like, this has become from a deal that I felt like I was overpaying for to now becoming a steal. Like it went
Yeah.
from like 5x to like a 3x, right? Or 3.3 or whatever it was. Like, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic, right? What I didn't like is like there's things you learn about the seller only after the fact. And the seller, they're great people. But one of them like just kind of shoots from the hip, right? Like no process in place. He just does everything from his phone, like, and I'm coming from like coaching leadership and being more strategic. He was not that at all, right? And so that's become problematic in the sense that he had a pipeline that was very short, right? So like I took over and he didn't have anything for November, December. So that was like an oh shit moment, right? Like I have to go figure out like what the pipeline is. And because it's federal funded and utility funded, they kind of used all those funds already. Like they're all getting ready for the next year. So yeah, interesting that I think 2026 is going to be this company's biggest year by far. However, like we got to make it to January, right? Like, um, that was interesting, and just to kind of work with someone that's just lives day to day, that was unique. Great guy, he put me in the right connections and right people, but like you don't have a pipeline, that was kind of shocking to me.
And why do you say 2026 is going to be the company's biggest year by far? What kind of opportunities are
Yeah.
on the horizon?
So even though the seller is shoot from the hip and does everything from the phone, so he started building a connection with the state of Tennessee. So the state of Tennessee has Department of Energy money, um, and so he got me in with them, and we're going to start taking over Tennessee next. So that could easily double our revenue easily. I think the biggest challenge is actually going to be finding the right people to serve that area. Um, but we are the perfect fit to go and do these things at scale because our company does travel. Like we're a traveling HVAC company. Like if there's a site in 4 hours from here, we go and do it. Like we stay in the hotels, we do it, and then move on to the next one. So going to Tennessee is no different. Like from, I think we have a team. We have a team in like the Virginia Tech area over there in what's that city called? It's more southeast Virginia. It's only 4 hours from like Nashville, so we can target that area pretty quickly. And they have uh, a whole bunch of apartment complexes on the HUD list that need servicing. It's like 2 years of a backlog out there, so
Wow.
easily be yeah, it should easily be the biggest year for this company. Just adding Tennessee, and the nonprofit organization that we're working with wants to go into North Carolina, and they're getting funding there, and they want to bring us along there. So just just within a couple of months, right? Like we're going to two states that we've never done before. So there's a lot out there.
Wow. Tell us about you're running an HVAC business, not coming from a trades or blue collar background. What's that been like?
Weirdly, I don't want to say the word easy, but I feel like I haven't really needed to learn much about HVAC. I have a VP of ops, and then he has a few team leads, so they're in the nitty gritty details of things. And what I try to encourage them to do is figure out how to improve their operations and figure out better ways to do their work. Like I don't know it, but you do, so I can facilitate those conversations and things that I've done in the past that you can plug and play into your environment, and they do work, right? Like just being able to quarterly or biweekly inspect yourself and figure out like, hey, how are there better ways to do things? Just because you're HVAC or you're a tech company doesn't mean there aren't opportunities to improve your efficiency. And so I think that's what I bring. And My goal is just to stay on the strategic side. And like, for example, like how do we take on Tennessee? How do we take on North Carolina? How do we expand? How are we going to grow? How are we going to scale? Those are the things that I'm thinking about. And I don't need to think about, HVAC and weatherization and how we, seal holes. Like I don't need to know that. I have people for that. And I want them to excel at that. I just want to excel them in growing and figuring out how to be better leaders. That's where I think I can benefit them.
I think that's, we spoke about it before starting this interview, but I think that one of the benefits of buying bigger, buying business with an existing, like leadership team in place, you've really been able to benefit from.
Absolutely. And I started talking to them before we even closed, like starting,
It's great.
like I was building a relationship with the VP before, and we had a great heart to heart before we even closed. And I asked him like, "Do you want to stay on?" And he's like, "It really depends on you and you see what kind of person you are." Well, oh, interestingly enough, his wife is one of the owners of the
Oh,
business.
wow.
Yeah, this was unique. Yeah, so his wife is one of the owners, but she was doing more like the accounting and the books and just like kind of the operations from that angle. Um, the seller that was like shoot from the hip, he's the one that was like an HVAC expert and had the contacts and things. But so I'm like, I'm selling this business to your wife, or sorry, I'm buying the business from your wife. From the numbers, you probably don't even need to work. Um, so what's going to motivate you to stay on? And he's my age. He wants to keep working. He finds passion in this stuff, and I thought this was a great opportunity to kind of give him ownership and treat him like a partner and say like, let's just do this stuff together. And that heart to heart was really important to understand like where he was mentally. If he was someone that was going to just kind of dip and quit or stay on, and it felt like he really wanted to push forward. So that was unique. To your point, like buying a business under 4 million, 3 million, from my experience, the ones I've saw, it was like there may be opportunities for a GM to be there over 3 million, but really not under that amount. Um, and so I knew that I had to go big, right? Like that was the only way for me to operate because I cannot be owner operated, and if there's no one on staff, go take a service call and pretend like I know what I'm doing, right? Like I'm not gonna do that. So it was important for me to go big. And when I say big, I mean over 3 million or so.
No, that's great color and insight, and helpful to hear how you were able to incentivize the VP of Ops to stay. Tell us about running the business remotely, and the culture you've built there.
Yeah. So there's an office in Richmond, which I was going to about every day. But like I said, this is a traveling HVAC company. So the technicians and things, they're traveling, they're doing work in other places that are hours away from the office. And the people that are in the office are like our bookkeeper. We have an office manager who does more than just office management. I converted her to what we call director of ops because I'm like, you do way more than office manager, and it's just not a respectful title for what you do, I felt. And so she's there, and then her peers there as well. So just like 4 or 5 people, and I was like, there was no reason why we can't do this remotely, right? And yeah, they go into the office still; they're comfortable doing that, and we have a couple of team leads that come in frequently. They're like project managers, but they're also on the road a lot of times as well. But with the VP in that area, I just felt like I don't need to go in as often, and I can manage a lot of this remotely. And so I started introducing calls. Um, in my world of tech, we used to call these stand-ups, right? And I was like, let's do a stand-up every morning, right? Let's just go around, figure out what people need to do. Not more so like give me a status update of like what you do, but like what do we need to do to be effective today, right? And does it align with our goals of the week or our goals for the month? And so that's what we talk about every morning for 15 to 30 minutes. And it's just enough to get everyone aligned, know what each other are doing. Because when I came in, they were like, hey, we suck at communication. There's overlap. And, so like my goal was to kind of like set some of the cultural practices that I want in place, like the remote work, but then also making sure that our roles and responsibilities are aligned and known, because there's like, because when I took over, the team lead said their jobs have changed, and they kind of don't know what they're currently doing versus what they were doing before, and it's just kind of like all over the place. So we had, a couple hours session of like, okay, this is what you're going to be doing now. This is what you're going to be leading now. Um, making sure that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing and what the operations lead is supposed to do versus the tech leads, right? Just kind of those different things. I think that really set things in motion. So yeah, and then next, actually, no, this Wednesday, I'm doing a strategy call with the entire team in place. So like kind of going over our 2026 vision, our strategy, our objectives, and really, and I also, our value statement, like what we are about, and just kind of 5-6 words of like, this is our value. This is the things that we do, and like we value integrity, we value continuous improvement. Like this is what we're going to be about. So I'm trying to set those things in place going into 2026.
And how has the team taken this sort of shift? It's only been 2 months. You're remote, or you're operating a lot of the business remotely. How have people been taking it?
Um, so I would say that the people in the office, like our project managers or bookkeepers, like I think they're taking it well. What they've told me is that they didn't have this type of alignment and communication and structure before, and they find a lot of value in it, right? And, like this is more than we've had in 5-6 years, right? Like because we had a guy that shot from the hip. They were told to go to different sites, at 9 a.m. and then 8:50 hits, and they're like, actually, go to that other place, or actually, what, don't do that. Go to that other place, right? Like it's just like he was like all over the place. So they kind of just wanted someone that is a little bit more strategic and had some operational focus. Um, and they said that I bring that, so that's a good sign. I think the actual technicians, they don't know me very well because I've only had met them maybe once. So they're trying to get to know me a little bit better. Um, and so I put a couple of sessions together this Wednesday, kind of to get to know them better and kind of build trust. So I think that's a work in progress, like trying to get to know them and figure out what their issues or challenges are. But I want to be the type of leader that hears them, and is just really there for them when they need it.
That's great. And taking a step back, how do you feel, finally getting through the gauntlet and being a business owner and, after working in corporate and tech for so
Oh
long?
man, no regrets, right? Like it's been remarkable, like to be able to be a business owner. Um, like I'm not someone that cares about like birthdays or parties for myself, but I was like, forget the 40th birthday party or the 50th or the wedding anniversary, which is great. Um, like what I want is like a retirement party, like retiring from corporate. Like that's the only thing I give a shit about. Really, like, so yeah, super excited. And I kind of control my own destiny, right? Like instead of like having to find another job, being laid off and getting another gig, um, or finding a second or third job to get more income,
Mhm.
right? Like I can just focus on my business and just add sales or add revenue and figure out how to be more strategic to get to increase revenue or be more efficient to increase our profit, right? So I'd rather do that than play the corporate game and be like, okay, you're gonna lay me off anyway, so I'm just gonna get another job somewhere else, right? Like it was just mind numbing, and so I'm grateful to be in this position.
You've spoken about a lot of the things, you're looking forward to, but what are you most excited about accomplishing in the next year or two?
Um, I'm excited to release to meet my goals for the company, right? Like I wanted to double revenue. I want to see if we can pull that off. Um, like that seems exciting to me. I think it's also very exciting that the more revenue we add, the more people in need we're actually helping, right? So it's a win-win. I'm so grateful to be in a position of not only do I get to help myself and increase more, profits for myself in the company, but at the same time, there is a direct correlation to the people we're helping as we're increasing our revenue. And I'm in a place where I don't need to overcharge or I don't need to, cheat anyone, right? Like, what we offer, our pricing is pretty reasonable and cheap because we're working with nonprofits and, we're not trying to, if I really wanted to, I can go to retail and kind of, charge 30-40% more, but I don't need to, right? Like, so I'd rather just be in a unique position to help people, but then also be in a position where there's a potential for a company to double, triple our revenue.
No, that's very exciting. I know we're way over on time, Armand. So, final question from me. What would you tell someone? Any sort of parting words that's watching this right now is unsure maybe about taking the next step, to buy a business, or maybe to join the pro program and work with us. Any sort of final words of wisdom for them?
The Nike slogan, just do it. To expand on that, like it's harder than it seems. I will be honest, right? Like, yeah, you come to the program, don't expect to just find a business, close it, and be done with it. It takes work, but make it easy on yourself and get some help, which is what you all provide.
I appreciate that. Well, Armand, thank you so much for joining today, for sharing your story. As I mentioned earlier, before the interview, I'd love to have you on our next post acquisition roundtable and have you sort of share your journey with everyone else as well in the program. I guess early next quarter if you're up for it, so they can hear from you directly.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to help and for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you again, and happy holidays.
Yeah, you too. Have a good
Thanks
one.
so much.